I was brushing my teeth when I noticed it, the towel. Small detail. Easy to miss. Except I don't use the lavender ones. Those are hers. Or were. Until last week, when one ended up draped over the shower door, soaking wet. At 3 p.m. On a Wednesday. I live alone. Or I'm supposed to. Now, you could call it paranoia. But when you've been married for 9 years, you notice the scent of foreign cologne in your bathroom. You notice new towels, moved mugs, smiles that don't reach the eyes. And I noticed. I noticed everything. Because I wanted to believe. That morning, I packed her lunch like always. Left her a sticky note that said, "Hope today doesn't suck." She used to smile at those. Lately, she just tosses them. Quietly. Like I'm background noise in her Netflix drama. But I stayed loyal. Faithful. Like a guy guarding a door that was already open. You see, the funny thing about heartbreak is that it's polite at first. It doesn't barge in. It seeps. It waits in the corners of conversations, in the space between "I love you" and "I'm just tired." And it doesn't wear a cape. It wears routine. Let me rewind. My name's Cole. 37. Architect. Proud owner of a slow cooker and a dying basil plant. I married Alyssa in the spring, the kind of spring that smells like renewal and lies. She was electric. Brilliant. The kind of woman who laughs too loud and cries at car commercials. Alyssa was sunshine. Until one day, she wasn't. She started hiding behind rain clouds of excuses, and I was the guy too in love to carry an umbrella. The change came gradually. She started staying late at work. Her phone never left her hand. Her laugh changed, not louder, just foreign, like she was learning to love in another language. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I tried harder. I booked us a cabin in the mountains for our anniversary. She said she couldn't get time off. I offered therapy. She said we didn't need it. We just needed space. Space. A word you only hear when someone's already halfway gone. I took it on the chin. Kept the lights on. Cooked the dinners. Sat through the silence. Because that's what love does, right? It endures. Or so I thought. Until the third towel. And that's when the itch in my spine became a scream. You ever try talking to someone who's already gone? It's like pouring coffee into a cracked mug. It looks fine until you notice the leak pooling under your hands. That was Alyssa, sitting across from me at dinner, nodding, smiling, saying at the right beats. But her soul was off somewhere else. With someone else. Probably texting him under the table while I told her about my client pushing a deadline. So I was thinking maybe we take a weekend, I said, sliding my fork across a plate I'd barely touched. Just us. No phones. Go up to the lake. She didn't even pause. Sounds nice, she said, not looking up from her phone. Let me check with work. I nodded like an idiot. Like she hadn't used that line the last 4 times I suggested something. I could have said, let's go rob a bank, and she would have given the same answer. Let me check with work. Work. Always work. Either the most demanding employer on earth or a really convenient boyfriend. I tried. I really did. Therapy, twice a week. I scheduled the sessions. Paid for them. Even picked a place close to her job, thinking maybe making it easier would make it work. She showed up late. Left early. Said the therapist was too opinionated. You're supposed to be trying, I told her in the parking lot after our 3rd session. I am trying, she said, like it was offensive that I even asked. It's not my fault if I'm not getting what I need. There it was. The beginning of the end. I didn't say what I was thinking. That I'd been giving everything. Time, money, effort, literal pieces of myself, while she held the emotional equivalent of a closed sign behind her eyes. Instead, I just drove us home in silence. Again, that night, she showered and left her phone on the bed. Unlocked. You know the rest. I didn't look right away. I stared at it. Like it was radioactive. Like just touching it would mean I'd officially admitted something was wrong. That I wasn't crazy after all. But my hands moved on their own. One swipe. One message. You make me feel alive again. From someone named Caleb. The rest was a blur of half-naked selfies, voice notes that made my stomach churn, and emojis that used to belong to us. Flames. Keys. That damn black heart. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, listening to her sing in the shower, like she hadn't just driven a knife into my ribs and twisted. She came out, drying her hair. Saw me sitting there. You okay? She asked. I nodded. She smiled and walked past me to grab a towel. I didn't say a word. Because when someone's already gone, you don't stop them. You watch which direction they run, so you know where to aim. 3 days after reading those messages, she asked me to dinner. I should have known something was off. Alyssa hadn't initiated anything in months. But she said she wanted to talk, seriously, and for a stupid half-second, I thought maybe she meant to apologize. Maybe therapy had sunk in. Maybe this was her turning a corner. It wasn't. She picked the place. A trendy downtown spot where the portions were small and the wine was expensive. I walked in wearing the shirt she used to call her favorite. She didn't even look up from her phone. "Hey," she said. "Sit." There was already a man sitting at our table. Let me say that again. There was already a man sitting at our table. He was clean-cut, mid-30s, collared shirt too tight around the arms like he'd spent more time curling dumbbells than opening books. He stood when I approached, offered a hand. "Cole, right?" "I'm Caleb." I looked at Alyssa. She just smiled. Not sheepishly, not nervously, but like someone proud of a new puppy they brought home. I thought it'd be easier if we just talked. All three of us. You ever hear the sound of your heart cracking in real time? It doesn't thunder. It hisses. Like steam escaping from something you didn't realize was under pressure. I didn't shake his hand. I sat down. Slowly. My mind was screaming, but my face? Calm. "You serious?" I asked. "You bring the guy you're cheating on me with to dinner, to talk?" Caleb, to his credit, tried to act noble. "Cole, I didn't want to sneak around anymore. I've told Alyssa we need to be honest. This isn't fair to you." "Oh, he's one of those. The guys who screw your wife and still think they get to play therapist after." Alyssa chimed in, like I just asked what wine she was ordering. "Cole, I wanted you to hear it from us. I don't want to lie anymore. I haven't been happy, and you deserve someone who actually, Stop." That's all I said. One word. Just enough. Then I stood up. Caleb stood, too. Like we were about to take prom pictures or square up in a parking lot. "I know you're upset." "No," I interrupted. "Upset was last week. This is something else." He reached for my shoulder. Bad move. I hit him. Not hard enough to knock him out. Just hard enough to knock over a $19 glass of Cabernet and send his ego sliding across the marble floor. People gasped. Alyssa shrieked. A waiter yelled something about calling the cops. I didn't care. I looked at her one last time. She wasn't crying, wasn't shouting. She was embarrassed. For me, that's when I finally got it. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't confused. She'd already left. I just hadn't stopped standing in the hallway yet. I walked out before they could call security. Into the cold. Into the truth. And the truth was this. She didn't cheat on me by accident. She chose this. Over me. Over everything. The night after the restaurant, I didn't sleep. I lay on the floor of my apartment, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't bring myself to climb into a bed that still smelled like her. I stared at the ceiling and tried to count how many times I'd missed the signs. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. Tried harder when she was already done trying. Turns out you can't CPR a relationship that's already flatlined. I kept waiting to feel something. Fury. Collapse. Maybe a nervous breakdown with a dramatic soundtrack in the background. Nothing came. Just this dull throb behind my eyes, like heartbreak had downgraded from an explosion to a slow, silent bleed. The next morning, Alyssa texted me like we were discussing cable bills. "I think it's better if you don't come back to the house for a while." The house. As if it wasn't the place we picked tile together. Painted the kitchen. Fought over the stupid couch she had to have, and then never sat on. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I knew none of it would matter. When someone checks out, they don't care what you text from the curb. Instead, I showered, shaved, and went into work like my world hadn't been casually disassembled over crab cakes and red wine. My assistant, Natalie, blinked when she saw me. "You look good." It came out like a question. She must have expected me to show up in sweatpants and grief. I smiled. Fake it till you file for divorce. That got a laugh, but it felt like I was throwing jokes into a canyon. A few days passed. Then a week. Alyssa didn't reach out. Neither did Caleb. Apparently, once you replace a husband, you also unsubscribe from basic decency. I went through the motions: therapy, gym, work. I read books I never had time for. Ate frozen waffles for dinner and watched documentaries I didn't understand. But at night, in the quiet, the echoes started whispering again. Why wasn't I enough? What did he have that I didn't? Why didn't she fight for us? And worst of all, why did I fight when she was already gone? The questions didn't get answers. They just got quieter over time, like pain that stops screaming and starts humming. About 2 weeks later, I finally went back to the house. She was at work. At least, I hoped she was. I didn't want to see her. Not yet. Not ever, if I could help it. The key still worked. Walking in was like stepping into a museum of what used to be. Our photos still hung on the wall, but she'd removed the ones that made us look happy. Left the neutral ones. The obligatory family shot. The posed holiday card from last Christmas. The performative marriage. The furniture was all in the same place, but the house felt different. Lighter. Like it had exhaled now that the truth was out in the open. I grabbed my duffel bag and started packing. Socks. T-shirts. The worn-out hoodie she used to steal on cold nights when we watched movies on the couch. Halfway through, I opened the drawer of her nightstand. Don't ask me why. Curiosity is a disease. Inside was a stack of old notes I'd written her. Little ones. From years ago. You make Mondays suck less. You're my favorite notification. Don't forget your magic. She'd kept them. All of them. I should have felt flattered. Instead, it pissed me off. Because those notes were like receipts, proof that I had shown up. That I'd tried. That I hadn't just coasted through our marriage, hoping autopilot would keep us from crashing. She'd held on to the evidence of my love while quietly deleting herself from our story. I left the notes. Let them rot in that drawer next to her betrayal. Before I walked out, I did one last thing. I went into the bathroom and replaced the lavender towel with a black one, mine. I wanted her to know I'd been here. That I'd seen the wreckage. That I wasn't ashamed of the blood on the floor. Back at my place, I sat down and made a list. I titled it, Everything I Did Right. It wasn't for her. It was for me. I offered therapy. I communicated. I stayed faithful. I listened when she was quiet. I noticed when she was tired. I made her laugh on bad days. I stayed when things got hard. I stayed when she stopped saying thank you. I stayed when she stopped saying anything at all. I stayed too long. That one didn't go on the list. That one just lived in the margins. The next day, I saw our mutual friend Sophie at a coffee shop. She gave me that look, the one people reserve for widows and war veterans. I heard, she said, gently. I'm so sorry. I nodded. Don't be. She made her choice. Sophie hesitated. Do you know who he is? Yeah. Caleb. 6-foot smirk in a fitted shirt. She bit her lip. You know they've been seeing each other longer than she told you, right? I mean, way longer. I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I already knew. That towel? That wasn't a mistake. That was a calling card. I figured, I said. You okay? I thought for a moment, then said something that surprised even me. I'm not okay, but I'm better. And I meant it. Because once you pull the knife out, you stop bleeding all over everyone else. And eventually, you stop bleeding altogether. But healing? Healing is a whole different beast. And revenge? Well, that's just a delayed form of closure. They say the best revenge is living well. But I'll be honest, that felt a little too Hallmark for me. I didn't want to just live well. I wanted to live better. Sharper. Louder. I wanted Alyssa to see what she gave up and realize, too late, that she didn't just leave a man. She left the man who would have carried her through hell with a smile and a first aid kit. So I got to work. Not on her. On me. I started waking up earlier. Running more. I ate better. Slept more. Lifted heavier. I started dressing like someone who knew what he was worth, because for years, I dressed like comfort was good enough. Like effort wasn't required after the wedding band went on. People noticed. Strangers smiled more. My coworkers asked if I'd lost weight. My boss gave me a raise, said I'd been dialed in lately. And it wasn't fake. It wasn't some theatrical makeover montage. It was real. Pain carves a man down to what's essential. And what was left of me? That guy had no time for regret. One night, 2 months after the restaurant ambush, I ran into Alyssa's sister, Claire, at a bookstore. She looked surprised, which, considering the version of me she last saw, wasn't shocking. I was wearing a blazer. Clean cut. Confident. Wow, she said, you look different. I gave her a small grin. Better or worse? Definitely better, she said. Alyssa's. Well, let's just say she's been quiet lately. I raised an eyebrow. She's still with Caleb? Claire hesitated. Yeah, but it's weird. She doesn't really talk about him. It's like she thought the high would last longer. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. I wasn't about to dig for gossip, because here's the trick with revenge. You don't chase it. You become it. You let the truth float back to them on its own. No pushing. No begging. Just silence and success. But while I was healing, I was also watching. I didn't stalk. I didn't spy. I just paid attention. Turns out Caleb wasn't just a charming idiot with good shoulders. He was also deeply insecure. And a little sloppy. His Instagram? Private. But not to me. See, he had a gym buddy named Shane. And Shane posted everything. One post showed Caleb on a yacht in Newport. On a weekend, Alyssa told her coworkers she was visiting her mom. Another post had him at a party with a brunette. Not Alyssa. Interesting. I didn't confront her. I didn't message Caleb. I just printed the pictures. Slipped them into a plain white envelope. No note. No return address. Dropped it in her mailbox. Let her wonder. Let her stew. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about disassembly. Quiet, clean, clinical. The next week, Claire texted me. Did you send something to Alyssa? I replied. Why? Because she's been crying nonstop and showed up at my place with a suitcase. Said she caught Caleb lying about a trip. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't finished yet. About a month later, I got a call. Not a text. Not an email. A call. From Alyssa. I stared at the screen for a good 30 seconds before answering. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I wanted to answer like a man who'd forgotten how much she used to mean to him. Cole, she said, her voice soft. Like it used to be. Like I'd picked up a call from 2017. Hey, I said. Even. Neutral. There was a pause. I wasn't sure you'd pick up. Yet here we are. She let out a breath. I know I don't have the right, but I needed to say something. I waited. I was wrong, she said. About a lot. About you. About Caleb. I stayed silent. Let her sit in it. I thought I needed excitement, she continued. Something new. I thought you'd stopped seeing me. But really, I think I stopped seeing you. A pause. And now I don't know who I am anymore. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because now she was discovering what I'd spent months digging through alone. I'm sorry, she said. There it was. The line. The hook. The soft plea for forgiveness. And maybe a door left slightly ajar. But I wasn't interested in doors anymore. Only exits. I appreciate the apology, I said. Really? But this isn't about you finding yourself. It's about me losing someone who didn't even try to stay found. She sniffled. So, that's it. I smiled. No. That's finally it. Then I hung up. No theatrics. No dramatic monologue. Just a quiet click, and the sound of a chapter ending the way it should have months ago. After that, I did what every man should do when he's finally free. I got on a plane. No note. No itinerary. Just me, a backpack, and a ticket to Tokyo. I'd always wanted to go but never did because Alyssa didn't like long flights. Funny how small freedom feels until you stretch your arms in it. I stayed for 3 weeks. Climbed Mt. Fuji. Ate sushi that ruined grocery store rolls forever. Wrote in a notebook every morning like I was building a blueprint for the rest of my life, brick by brick, scar by scar. I didn't think about her. Not because I was forcing it, but because I didn't have to anymore. The wound had closed. Not clean. Not pretty. But strong. And that? That was enough. I came back from Tokyo with lighter bags and heavier resolve. Something had shifted, not just inside me, but around me. People at work didn't look at me like a broken man anymore. I was the guy who walked away from fire and didn't even smell like smoke. I carried myself different. Talked different. Even my reflection in the mirror seemed to stand taller. But I hadn't forgotten. Not Alyssa. Not Caleb. Not the way they tried to turn betrayal into some conscious uncoupling fairy tale. And I wasn't done yet. See, I'd given her silence. I'd given her space. I even gave her the dignity of not burning down her life when she was the one who torched mine. But some things don't get to fade without consequence. Let me explain. Alyssa worked for a mid-sized nonprofit. She'd been there for 5 years, one promotion away from a leadership role. And Caleb? Caleb worked in finance, flashy, over-leveraged, and dumb enough to believe HR rules were more like suggestions. After that envelope I mailed her, things got rocky for them. I didn't have to dig. Claire kept me updated without knowing she was part of the recon. Apparently, Alyssa left Caleb's apartment in the middle of the night a few weeks after. Something about him, lying about who he was. Something about, he's not the man I thought. No kidding. I waited. Let the chaos simmer. Let the dust settle just long enough that they'd think maybe the worst was behind them. And then I sharpened my knife. Not literally. I'm not that guy. But reputation? Career? Stability? Those were weapons of mine long before she ever was. It started with a harmless-looking email. Anonymous account. No signature. Just screenshots. From Caleb to Alyssa. They weren't graphic. Not explicitly. But they painted the picture. A picture that showed two employees crossing boundaries during work hours, using company devices, meeting off-site while charging the hours to client development. The kind of messages that made compliance departments nervous. The kind that, when forwarded to the right department at the nonprofit, would spark an internal investigation faster than you could say misuse of company resources. I didn't lie. I didn't fabricate. I just connected dots they left in plain sight. The rest? That was all of them. It took about 2 weeks before I heard anything. Claire called me again, this time more cautious, like she wasn't sure whose side she was on anymore. Did you hear what happened at Alyssa's work? No, I said, like I wasn't practically waiting by the phone. What? She's on administrative leave. HR's doing a full review. I played dumb. Over what? She won't say much. Something about a leak and inappropriate communication. She looked wrecked. I nodded slowly. That sucks. Claire hesitated. You didn't have anything to do with that, did you? I gave her a pause, then said, calm as ice, I didn't tell them anything they didn't already deserve to know. The fallout came fast. Caleb was fired from his firm. Apparently, some of those messages were sent while he was billing a major client. That's not just poor judgment, that's career suicide. Alyssa, meanwhile, got suspended indefinitely. Her organization was too reputation-sensitive to risk scandal. They offered her a chance to resign quietly, and from what I heard, she took it. No lawsuit. No press. Just a quiet little fall from the pedestal she built on someone else's back. But here's the part one didn't expect. She called again. Not to apologize. Not to scream. She called to ask why. Why now? She said, her voice frayed like an old rope. Why kick me while I'm already down? I let the silence stretch. Let her squirm. Then I said, because you didn't fall. You jumped. You lit the match and smiled at the flames. But I said I was sorry. And I said thanks. That's all it earned. A pause. I lost everything, she whispered. No, I said, my voice even. You lost me. The rest? That's just gravity catching up. I hung up. Felt nothing. Not anger. Not triumph. Just the kind of clean stillness that comes after surgery, when the rot's been cut out, and all that's left is scar tissue and the sound of machines keeping time. Revenge gets a bad rap. People say it's toxic. Say it rots you from the inside. But that's not true. Real revenge isn't chaos. It's clarity. It's taking back your name from the mouse that chewed it like gum. It's the difference between bleeding out and cutting off the limb. Alyssa thought she could leave the wreckage behind her and walk into a new life like the past wouldn't follow. Like I wouldn't follow. But I didn't chase her. I just turned on the lights and let the shadows do the work. And now? Now I sleep. Not with hate. Not with grief. With peace. Because sometimes the best closure isn't a conversation. It's a reckoning. And this? This was mine. After the fallout, Alyssa disappeared from my radar. Her socials went dark. Claire said she moved in with a friend across town. Said she was taking time to heal. Cute. Healing from the fire, she said herself. But here's the funny part about echoes, they don't lie. They carry your mistakes into the next room, the next city, the next version of you. And Alyssa's echo? It was still screaming in every circle she used to walk through. Our old friends started drifting from her. Not because of me. I never said a word. But people talk. Patterns show. And betrayal, that has a scent to it, follows you around like cheap perfume. Meanwhile, I kept moving. I wasn't out for sympathy. I wasn't trying to win the breakup. I'd already won the day I stopped playing her game. But revenge? That still had one layer left. You remember the house? Our house. I'd moved out, sure. But I still owned it. My name was still on the papers. And after her job vanished and her reputation went up in smoke, she stopped making payments. I let that sit for a while. Then I called the bank. One short, polite phone call and the foreclosure clock started ticking. The letters came. The notices followed. She called again, number blocked, desperate voicemail. Please, Cole, can we talk? I'm sorry. You don't have to do this. But I did. Not because I wanted to watch her suffer. Because I wanted her to learn. You don't salt the earth and beg it to bloom again. When the official notice went up on the door, I happened to be parked across the street. Call it coincidence. Call it poetry. She came home, saw it, dropped her keys on the lawn, and collapsed on the porch like she finally realized this wasn't a bad dream. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just watched the final piece of our old life turn to ash and drove away without a word. 6 months passed. I'd rebuilt. New job offer. New place. New rhythm. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Handwritten. It was from Alyssa. I don't expect you to read this. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. I see what I threw away. You gave me loyalty, stability, a love I never earned. And I traded it for noise and glitter and nothing real. I'm not asking for you back. I don't deserve that. I'm asking for one thing only. Peace. You were always better than me. I just didn't realize it until I saw your back walking away. I folded the letter once, put it in a drawer I don't open much. Peace? Peace is earned. But I gave it to her anyway, by doing what she never could. Letting go. You want a cruel revenge? Here it is. It's not in fists. It's not in flames. It's in silence. In walking past someone who once held your whole heart and feeling nothing. No ache. No want. Just a quiet nod to a chapter that's already been published. I saw her again a year later. At a cafe. She was waiting tables. Her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. She looked up, caught sight of me, froze. I didn't gloat. Didn't speak. Just dropped a $100 bill on the table I wasn't sitting at and walked out the door. Not because I owed her, but because I didn't. Because the cruelest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's evolution. It's becoming everything they said you weren't. And then walking away before they can apologize loud enough to matter.